After completing the main body, let's move on to the decorations. The decorations consist of lotus and carp. We'll start with the lotus. The lotus flower is divided into the stem, petals, and the seed pod. Once completed, assemble them together. First, let's learn about the stem. There are 4 different lengths. All begin with the foundation chains. I will demonstrate with shortest one as an example. The crochet method is the same for the others, with only the number of stitches differing. Please watch the demonstration. First, take out the yarn. Begin with the required number of chains. Once completed, chain 1 to begin. From the second to last stitch, pick up the top loop of the chains. Work single crochets correspondingly. Once completed, into the working placement of the final single crochet, work a slip stitch. Do not tighten it. Leave a yarn tail about twice the size of the fabric for sewing. That completes the explanation for shortest stem. Follow this demonstration and the pattern to complete the remaining stems. Once completed, set them aside for later use. That completes our tutorial for the stems. Next, let's learn about the petals. There are large petals and small petals. All begin with the foundation chains. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We will use X for single crochets, T for half double crochets, F for double crochet, FV for DC 2 in 1, W for SC 3 in 1, CH for chains and SL for slip stitches. Please watch the demonstration. Let's familiarize ourselves with the chart. In the chart, our plus number indicates the round number. The column for stitch instructions indicates the stitches used in the current round, including any increase or decrease. The total stitches column shows the total number of stitches after completing this round. Now let's start crocheting. I will use a small petal for the demonstration. The crocheting method for large petals is the same, but with different number of stitches. Take out the yarn. Also, crochet using 2 strands combined into 1. Begin with the foundation chains. After completing, Dow 2 means to work from the second to last chain. Work into the top loops of the chains. Work 3 single crochets. Two half double crochets. the required number of double crochets. Three half double crochets. When done, work at SC3 in 1 into the final chain. After completing, rotate the fabric. Work into the remaining 2 strands of the chains with 3 half double crochets. Note that do not work into the same placement of this SC3 in 1. At the same time, weave in the beginning yarn tail. Then work the required number of double crochets. After completing, work 2 half double crochets. Three single crochets. Finally, slip stitch into the first stitch to join. The joining slip stitch is not indicated in the chart. When crocheting in rounds, always join to the first stitch with a slip stitch in the end. Pull tight. Round 1 is completed. If there's excess beginning yarn tail, you can trim it. Move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. This beginning chain is not indicated in the chart. In actual crocheting in rounds, we need to work the beginning chain at the beginning of each round. The beginning chain does not count as a stitch. Work at SC2 in 1 into the first stitch of the previous round. This is the working placement of the joining slip stitch. Then, work into the left stitches with 2 single crochet, 2 half double crochets, 1 double crochet, and 1 DC2 in 1. Once completed, follow the previous demonstration and the pattern to complete this round. Finally, join with a slip stitch. Pay attention. Unless otherwise specified, at the end of each round, always slip stitch into the first stitch to join and pull tight. The slip stitch is complete. Round 2 is completed. Move on to round 3. Chain 1 to begin. First, complete the stitches before the brackets in the chart. Next, when you see brackets like these, it means we need to work the stitches inside it, into the same placement. That means we need to work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Chain 3 between these 2 single crochet. Next, just follow the pattern to complete this round. This completes round 3. The small petal is complete. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail for sewing. Follow the demonstration and the pattern to complete the remaining petals. When done, set them aside for later use. After completing the petals, let's learn about the seedpods. There are 2 types, seedpod 1 and seedpod 2. Let's learn the seedpod 1 first. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. During the process, we will change color for the pistil. Finally, attach the seeds. Let me demonstrate for you. Take out the corresponding yarn. Make a magic ring first. Let's begin working round 1. Chain 1 to begin. Then work 7 single crochets into the magic ring. When done, close the magic ring. Pull tight the yarn tail. Close the center of the fabric. Now the magic ring is closed. Next, end with a slip stitch into the first stitch. Round 1 is complete. Move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. For round 2, we will work at SC2 in 1 into each of the single crochet. Round 2 is complete. Move on to round 3. The chart shows X, V followed by number 7. The parentheses indicate a group. The following number indicates how many times to repeat the stitches inside the parentheses. First, make a single crochet. Then, make a SC2 in 1. One group of stitches is completed. I'll demonstrate another group. First, make 1 single crochet. Then, make a SC2 in 1 into the left stitch. The second group is completed. Next, follow the pattern to complete this round. Then, slip stitch into the first stitch to join. This completes round 3. For round 4 to round 7, all required stitches are demonstrated before. Just follow the pattern to complete these rounds. After completing round 7, move on to round 8. Chain 1 to begin. BLO means to work into the back loop of the stitches. A stitch has these 2 strands. Back loop is the strand farther from us. Here cause we have slip stitched into the first stitch. So the braid is a bit short. You can loosen it with the hook before crocheting. First, crochet 6 single crochets correspondingly. Next, K indicates skipping 1 stitch. One group of stitches is completed. For the rest, repeat this group of 6 single crochets and 1 skipped stitch. Follow this rule to complete this round. Remember, this round we work only into the back loops. When done, slip stitch into the first stitch to join. Round 8 is complete. Move on to round 9. For this round, work single crochets correspondingly and evenly. The total number of stitches remains the same. After completing it, follow the pattern to complete the remaining 2 rounds. When done, leave a 30 cm yarn tail for sewing. Then, refer to the pattern to take out the corresponding yarn for the pistil. We will crochet the pistil only into the front loop of the last round. Flow means work into the front loop. That's the strand closer to us. Hook into the front loop of any stitch. Begin joining the yarn. After completing it, chain 11. Then begin working from the second to last stitch into the top loop of the chains. Work slip stitches correspondingly. Note that the slip stitches here are not tightened. After completing it, into the left stitch, slip stitch into its front loop. Now we complete one group of stitches inside the parentheses. I will demonstrate another group. Chain 11 first. Then begin working from the second to last stitch. Pick up the top loops of the chains. Work slip stitches correspondingly. After completing it, into the left stitch, work a slip stitch into its front loop. Another group of stitches inside the parentheses is complete. For this round, just repeat this group. Now please follow the pattern to complete this round. The final slip stitch should be worked into the joining placement. This completes the pistil. And this completes our tutorial for the seed pod one. Then sew on the seed beads and sequins onto the earlier rounds as the seeds. Cut a 40 cm yarn of the corresponding color. Take one strand from it. Thread it through a thin needle. The needle should be able to pass through the seed beads and sequins. First, tie a knot and hide the tail on the wrong side of the seed pod. Then exit from the center of round 1. Take one sequin and one seed bead and thread them through. Place the sequin with the wrong side facing up. Then pass the needle through the center of the sequin and the center of round 1. This sews on one lotus seed. Follow this demonstrate to sew the seed evenly onto the seed pod. When done, tie off and weave in the yarn tail. Set it aside for later use. Next, let's learn about seed pod 2. Begin with the foundation chains. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We need to change colors for the pistil during the process. Please watch the demonstration. First, follow the pattern to complete round 1 to round 4. Now move on to round 5. Chain 1 to begin. Into the left stitches, work 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 TR2-in-1. TR2-in-1 means that work 2 treble crochets into the same placement. Work the first one. Yarn over twice. Hook in 2. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over again. Draw through the first 2 loops, repeat 3 times. This completes the treble crochet. Work another one into the same stitch. The TR2-in-1 is complete. From here on, just follow the pattern to work. After completing round 5, leave a yarn tail and fasten off the yarn. Once done, we will now crochet the pistil. Find the 12th to last stitch of the fabric. Join the yarn here. Here we join the yarn at the back loop, which is the strand farther from us. Chain 9. From the second to last stitch, work 8 slip stitches. Once done, work 1 slip stitch at the joining placement. Then chain 9. Work 8 slip stitches. Once done, slip stitch into the adjacent placement. Chain 9 again. Work 8 slip stitches from the second to last chain. This completes one group of stitches in parentheses. Repeat this group 4 times. After completing 4 groups, slip stitch into the adjacent placement. Chain 9. Work 8 slip stitches from the second to last stitch. Into the working placement of the slip stitch below. Work another slip stitch. Chain 9. From the second to last stitch, work 8 slip stitches. Finally, slip stitch into the adjacent placement below. When completed, fasten off the yarn. This completes the explanation for the pistil. Next, take out the sequins and the seed beads. Refer to the previous demonstration and the finished product to sew on them. This completes the tutorial for Seed Pod 2. Now, let's move on to the assembly. When sewing together, refer to the finished product to find the corresponding placements. I will only demonstrate the method here. The placement is not for reference. First, take out the large petals. Place them evenly. Then temporarily secure the petals onto the main body. Let me demonstrate the method using this sample. We only secure the lower part of the petals like this. Secure the other 4 as well. After securing them, check if you are satisfied. If not, make slight adjustments. After completing this, take out the small petals. Place them evenly between the large petals. Then take out the seed pod one. Place it on top and check the overall effect. Once it fits properly, sew the large petals first. Then sew the small petals. Finally, sew the seed pod. Now, I will use this small sample to demonstrate the sewing method for the petals. Thread the reserved yarn into the sewing needle. Then pick up the strands from the surface of the main body, and the wrong side of the petals to sew. Roughly secure this small section of the petal. Make sure the stitches do not show on the wrong side of the main body. After completing this, fasten off the yarn. Make sure to weave in the end a few more stitches. After completing, remove the yarn used for temporarily securing. This completes sewing one large petal. Follow this method to sew the remaining large petals. After completing this, take out the small petals. Place them on top. Secure them temporarily with yarn. After securing them, also sew only a short section. The sides can be left unsewn. Pick up strands from the wrong side of the small petals and the surface of the large petals to sew. The sewing method has been demonstrated before. Just complete sewing on your own. Finally, take out the seed pod. Place it on the center of the petals. Thread the reserved yarn into the sewing needle. Pick up the remaining half loops of the last round from the seed pod and sew it on the petals. Let's demonstrate the sewing method with this sample. While sewing, stuff in a small amount of scrap yarn as filling. When completed, fasten off the yarn. Next, take out the remaining stem and seed pod too. Refer to the finished product to sew them onto the corresponding placements. The sewing method is the same as before. That concludes the sewing method. Take out the blush. Apply it to the petals in small amounts multiple times using a brush. That concludes our tutorial for the lotus. After completing the lotus, let's move on to the carp. There are 3 sizes of carp: large, medium, and small. All begin with the foundation chains. The crocheting method is the same for all 3 sizes. The only difference is the number of stitches. I will demonstrate with the small carp as an example. Then new stitches include SC2 tog and HDC2 tog. Let me demonstrate for you. Take out the corresponding yarn. Also, combine 2 strands into one for crocheting. First, begin with the required number of chains. After completing, let's work on row 1. Chain 1 to begin. Start from the second to last stitch. Work 6 slip stitches correspondingly. No need to tighten them. Then work 1 single crochet. Followed with a SC2 tog into the left stitch. First, hook into the left stitch, yarn over and pull through. Then hook into the adjacent stitch on the left side. Yarn over and pull through. Now there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through once. The SC2 tog is complete. Continue with 1/2 double crochet. One HDC2 tog. First, work 2 unclosed half double crochet into the left stitches. Work the first one. Yarn over. Hook into and pull through. This completes 1 unclosed half double crochet. Work another one into the left stitch. There are now 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through. The HDC2 tog is complete. Into the left stitches, continue with 1/2 double crochet. One HDC2 tog and 7 double crochets. After completing, work 7 double crochets into the last chain. Work them into the same stitch. Then rotate the fabric. Into the remaining 2 strands of the chains, continue with 7 double crochets. Six half double crochets. Three single crochets. And 1 slip stitch. Row 1 is completed. Move on to row 2. Hook into the first single crochet of row 1. Work 1 slip stitch. Into the left stitches from row 1, work 2 slip stitches. Two single crochets. 4 half double crochets. Four chains. Into the third to last chain, work 2 half double crochets. Into the adjacent chain, work 1 single crochet. Next, slip stitch into the back loop of the half double crochet below. After that, follow the pattern to work all the way down to the HDC of row 1. When done, into the left stitches, work 3 slip stitch. Into the chain to the left side of the slip stitch below, work 1 single crochet. Into the left stitches, work 2 slip stitches and one single crochet. Into this final chain, work 1 slip stitch and 2 chains. Into the same stitch, work 1 double crochet and 1 chain. Then hook into the front loop and 1 left strand of this double crochet. Work 1 slip stitch. When done, chain 2. Again, into the same stitch, work 1 slip stitch, 2 chains, 1 double crochet, and another chain. Then hook into the front loop and 1 left strand of the double crochet. Work 1 slip stitch. Chain 2. Finally, slip stitch into the same placement. When done, chain 1 to secure. Break the yarn. Now 1 small carp is completed. Follow this method to complete the remaining small carps. The crocheting method for the large and medium carp is the same to the small carp. Just the number of stitches are different. Follow the previous demonstration and pattern to complete them. This completes our tutorial for the crafts. After completing, place them, refer to the finished product and sew them on. The sewing method is the same as before. Finally, crochet the eyepiece and sew it onto the carp fish. And sew 1 seed bead onto the eyepiece as the eyeball. The sewing method has been demonstrated earlier. Sew them onto each carp. Before sewing the carp on this placement, bend the tail a little like this. Then sew it on. That completes our tutorial for the carps. Finally, take out the buttons. Sew them evenly along this edge of section 2. The buttons on both sides can be sewn closer to the joint. Sew the buttons on the wrong side of the blanket. Turn the blanket to the wrong side. Fold the blanket along the joining mark. Then, on the side without the buttons, roll it over to the other side, with a width about 15 centimeters. Finally, do up the buttons. Up to this point, the tutorial for this product is completed. During the process, if you still have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out our customer service. Susan's family is here for you, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you next time.